ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon. Long time no see. Happy Thursday. Hello, Roundtable. Happy December. Hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. We didn't have a show last week, but we did have a Roundtable talk with the one and only Kevin Eubanks. Did you check it out? I hope you did. Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Robert Bannon. And if you were watching this live with us on December 1st at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, you may notice that I'm not really here. I am actually in Disney World. Yes, I am. Surprise. I'm in Disney World with my people, so thank you for joining us. This is a special show that I've been working on since August. Today is World AIDS Day, and we wanted to honor everyone who's working and has been working to find a cure for HIV/AIDS, to end the stigma, and to raise awareness. So we are not doing a regular show. There is no shameless plug. There is no weekend review. There is no Hey Friend Hey. If you want to see all of what happened at my Miles Frost Broadway lecture series, you're going to have to join us next week for a big old special edition of the Roundtable. But today we have some serious business to talk about. Growing up, the first time I had ever heard of HIV/AIDS was obviously the biggest story at the time. I'm born in 1983, was Magic Johnson. I remember the after-school special of Magic Johnson in Arsenio Hall. I remember the controversy. We've had many guests on this show, such as Greg Louganis, talk about the stigma that he faced when he was in the Olympics and hit his head on the diving board, and all of the drama that went about it, and what people thought and how people thought. And sadly, people out there, people still have a stigma and still don't understand what HIV/AIDS and is like, how you get it. And what's so concerning, as a child, we were so afraid of it because there was so much awareness and conversation about it. And now it's kind of gone away. It's something that people don't worry about anymore because of the medication that people take. You can be undetectable, and it's not a death sentence like it was when I was younger. And that really was concerning to me. And how I got the inspiration for the show was I was watching 2020, and they did a whole episode on HIV Today. Do you know that in Atlanta, Georgia, 1 out of every 2 men of color is HIV positive? 40% don't even know that they're detected because there's such a stigma about getting testing. There's HIV/AIDS, and the battle against HIV/AIDS is racist, it's homophobic, it's sexist, and it is out marginalizing communities that need help. We need to have access to PrEP medication. We need to have access to the cocktails that keep us safe. We need to have access to free testing. And we need to have access to the trials that have made HIV/AIDS be as successful in treating it as possible, but there's still no cure. So this show came about out of that inspiration. And I thought to myself, I know some of the most amazing advocates and activists for HIV/AIDS in the entire world. I'm so grateful and excited to have the amazing Javier Muñoz. He's the most inspiring person in the world, cancer survivor, HIV advocate, star of Hamilton, star of In the Heights, brilliant. If he can get through what he's getting through, we can get through what we're getting through. And then Raif Derrazi, model, athlete, bodybuilder, HIV positive, ripped in shape. I wish I had one arm like his. He's here to tell us about his healthy lifestyle and what he's going through, and how he keeps himself safe and healthy and fights the stigma in his own special way. Also, we have my favorite new charity. I live in New Jersey. I'm a Jersey born and bred person, and I got an email one day that there was a gala, and I was invited to a gala by an organization called Hyacinth. And then I ended up seeing their ads everywhere. It was on buses, it was on billboards, and I had never paid attention before. They're an HIV awareness charity that pays for the salaries of the people that work there from state money, and all of the money donated goes directly to HIV and AIDS patients. If it's paying their bills, if it's for groceries, if it's for medication, if it's for testing, if it's for treatment, if it's, they house LGBT homeless youth in Jersey City. There's 8 offices in New Jersey. They're an amazing organization who is honoring so many amazing people who are fighting this disease with it, or to prevent it, or to raise awareness for it. So tonight, I thought it was only apropos that instead of sending money to me and this show, we all go to hyacinth.org, send $1, $5, $10, $100, and support Hyacinth today. One of the amazing representatives from the organization will be with us. They're going to tell us all about how they are fighting the fight here in my home state of New Jersey. So I'm super excited to have you here. And I want to tell you a connection that I had to this horrible disease. when I was in high school, I was very sick with Lyme disease that caused meningitis, and no one knew what was wrong with me. And I was going to Baltimore to do hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatments. And people at that time thought we were all nuts. It was like Michael Jackson was doing it and me. And when I was there, I was learning about hyperbaric oxygen treatments. And we used to go into this, they called them a dive. You would wear a helmet. And what full oxygen, 100% oxygen does is it kills bacteria in your body, good and bad. And it was experimental at that time. And now people use it for Lyme disease, for meningitis, and for many diseases, burn victims, etc. If you're drunk, you sober up. I know some of you need that. So what ended up happening is inside of the chamber, it looks like a giant propane tank, and you would sit in there and wear the hood, and it was connected to oxygen, and we would play Uno cards to pass the time. It was about an hour. Your ears would pop. It was like you were scuba diving, but weren't going anywhere. A lot of the patients that were in there were AIDS patients that were on their last hopes to try to find something that would cure their disease. And every time I played Uno with them, and we would laugh, and I was the young kid and they were older, and none of them made it. And not only the queer community, but women, men, children across this world, in continents like Africa and right next door to where you live, there are people who have sacrificed and suffered with a disease that was not taken seriously, that was deeply stigmatized, deeply homophobic, deeply sexist towards women who had this. And the stigma and the shame killed as many people as the disease. So for tonight, and for every day, and for every December 1st, but for every day, may we carry their legacy and the fight that they fought, because the people living with HIV/AIDS today that are positive and able to be out and proud about their status and be undetectable is on the back of all the people who made that sacrifice. When the government was not there, when the president was not there, when the health insurance companies and hospitals were not there, the community stood up and demanded a cure and demanded medication. And today, it's better, but it's not what it needs to be. So if I have this platform, and as long as you are listening to my voice, we are going to make sure that we support and causes that are important and add humanity to this world. It's not a red and blue thing. It's not a liberal conservative thing. It's not a gay straight thing or a black white thing or a man woman thing or a person thing. It's the human experience. And our job is to be there for other humans in need. So support today. Make sure you check out hyacinth.org. I'm really honored. Really honored. This gentleman is one of the greatest voices. He's one of the greatest stage presences. He's one of the greatest actors. And he is one of the beaming, shining lights that exists in this world. Earlier this week, right in my backyard, I have a longtime friend. Wait till you hear how we met. Javier Muñoz is here. It's special. All right. So little known fact, back in the day, I was training in New York City at the gym, and I would be there lifting my poor piddly little 20-pound weights. And the gentleman that's about to come on was rip roaring in the gym, lifting weights, sweating, yelling. And I was like, man, one day I want to be Javier Muñoz he is the most inspiring artist. I adore him, everything he stands for, not only his art, but his activism as well. A class act through and through. Javier Muñoz, welcome back.
Hi. What a beautiful introduction. Thank you.
No, please. That is how I first met you. You were on the floor doing some kind of, trust your core rhythm ab workout. And if you could be kind and generous in the middle of an ab routine, then you are the nicest person ever.
That is it. That is fact.
That is fact. Well, I want to congratulate you firstly on all the work that you're doing. Congrats on the Devil Wears Prada and the run that you just completed.
Thank you.
And all of the amazing art that you have made and continue to make. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a really incredible year. I'm still pinching myself over Chicago and everything that's happened. It's been beautiful.
Yes. Well, I snuck a little pic of the show. Look at you in the middle. You better dance and be dressed and
Let me tell you, those suits, oh my God, were they gorgeous. Gorgeous.
I can imagine the wardrobe had to be something special.
It was, yes.
Really special. Well, unless you live under a rock, Javi has, you may know him from quite a moment ago. This was a few minutes ago.
A few minutes ago.
A few minutes ago.
A few million minutes ago. It's oh my God, baby.
And of course, this and as I was teasing him before we came on, if there's a show in the world that my 5th grade students in North Bergen, New Jersey know and can sing along to, it's that. You guys really changed the culture and shifted this medium of musical theater, and it's quite something special. Yes. And more to come.
Yes,
lots more to come. So what I'm so fascinated about, and it's World AIDS Day, and I can't think of someone who has been outspoken and an advocate for causes and their health. What was the decision that you made to take this publicly and to talk about it? And was it something that weighed heavily on you to make this decision? Because it's very personal, and you've been very outspoken about your own personal journey.
That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. I don't get asked that a lot, actually. So I was diagnosed in 2002. And for the first 3 years, I battled the weight of that news and the stigmas that was still attached to that diagnosis, the medications and their side effects. I happened to test positive at a time where we were still doing what were called cocktail combinations of medications. So I was taking anywhere from 6 to 9 pills a day at different times in the day with many different reactions and side effects. And for those first 3 years were the hardest of this journey. And but I learned so much. I learned how far we had come, that I did have many more options. At that point in 2002, it was not a death sentence. It was difficult, but it was not a death sentence. It was starting to become a manageable virus, a manageable disease. This time, though, was not the best in terms of our humanity around HIV and AIDS. There was still so much misinformation and lack of education, and no one was out there. No one was out there. We had Magic Johnson, and then there was nothing, right? Just a void of space, and a lot of people occupying that space to share false information, to fearmonger. And that really penetrated the LGBTQ community. So I was finding my own communities treating me in a way that was like, this is awful. This is not the best of us. And so in 2005, I made a promise to myself and a commitment to myself. And I said, this is me. I have this, and it doesn't diminish me. And I'm still talented. I still have dreams. I still have goals. I'm still a good person. I still deserve to be happy and to have love in my life. I still get to reap the rewards of my hard work, and no one can take that from me. So I'm not going to let them. And so I decided in 2005, that was just going to be it. You either accept me and all aspects of me, or hit the road. You're not someone that I want to be in the room with. You're not someone that I want to share my energy with, right? I take the power back. And I made that choice in 2005. And so I carried myself in that way all that time. And when I got to the interview, obviously Hamilton happens. I was already living openly that whole time with my status, right? So in the Heights, I was living openly with my status, and everything I was doing, it was like, no, this is me. And we can talk about it if you have questions. I'm willing to answer them. I'm here for you if you need information, right? Like, this is safe space. Don't attack me, because then you're asking for it. But this is a safe space. Like, come and ask me your questions. So we open in Hamilton, and it's after the first year. And as I was taking over the role, the first, there was sort of a negotiation with PR, and the New York Times wanted to have the first interview. So in order to get me on the Times, that was the agreement. I had this beautiful interview, and because they were the first, they got the to break the story. And as we're talking, the topic, or it just sort of comes up, my status, and I'm so casually talking about, like, the way I say my name, right, or the way I say I have black hair. It's like, yeah, I'm HIV positive, and 2002 it tested positive, yada yada, and I'm telling the story, and he stops, and he looks at me and says, "Can I print that?" I said, "Yeah, like, this is me. I've been living this way forever." Right? This isn't new. It's been 10, 12 years at this point. So and that was it. And I realized after the interview, this is how ingrained living openly with my status it was for me. I didn't think about it, even in the interview, as it being anything. It was nothing to me. It was like, that's not a risk. Everybody knows. And so I realized afterwards, it's like, oh, I guess maybe I should tell my PR people that I said that. They might want to know. And so I called them up. I'm like, so this happened, and I shared my status. They were like, "Oh my God, thank you for telling us." And I was like, and they had a whole bunch of concerning questions. And I was like, "Y'all, I'm fine. I'm fine. Like, if this is going to be backlash, then let there be backlash, because then that tells me where we are and how much work I have to do."
Well,
and there wasn't.
Well, I remember reading about it. I remember before I had ever known of you, seen you on stage or saw you, and then to hear about you and your journey, and to be so open and honest about how you take care of yourself, how you're able to do 8 shows a week, and how you take care of your health. But there have been strides, and that's what we've been talking about, the stigma that is around HIV. I got this idea to do the show for World AIDS Day after watching a documentary that was on Hulu that came from ABC News, and it was talking about the generation, the younger generation. I was born in 83. I remember Magic Johnson. I remember the after school specials. I remember the conversation. Now, as a teacher and educator, if I go into classrooms, people don't think of it as, there's still a stigma, but no one is worried about it. Nobody, it's something from back in the time. Yeah. And what strides have you personally noticed in your own health and your own taking care of your own wellness?
Really, we have to give it up for the advancement of treatment. It's astounding. I take 1 pill a day. I told you I was taking anywhere from 6 to 9 pills throughout a day with so many varied side effects. I'm now taking 1 pill in the morning with my breakfast, along with all my vitamins, my allergy medication and my nonsense that everybody else takes, right? I pop it, I'm done. Right? And that allows me to be undetectable. That means there's the amount of virus in my bloodstream is at an undetectable level, less than 50 copies. It means I cannot transmit the HIV virus to anyone. That's where we are. That's tremendous, right? Now, the other side of that, though, access to treatment is still an issue. We still have obstacles that stand in the way of the populations, not just in our country, but globally, that need treatment the most and don't have access. That's an issue we have to keep looking at and fighting for. We also have to look at, while we've come so far in terms of stigma, there are people in this day and age who still don't even know how it's transmitted, which is so baffling to me, because if you are a sexually active human being, how do you not know? I mean, it's like, you know how to use a condom, right? I hope. Right? So it's just these are I feel like with the advancement of medication and treatment, there are just little frayed edges that are being left untended to. And in order to truly see our first HIV-free generation, which we are so close to being able to say and do and accomplish, which is mind-blowing in our lifetime, it's mind-blowing. But to get there, we have to take care of those frayed edges. We can't leave any country behind. We can't leave any specific, demographic behind. Everybody has to be tended to. And that includes just read the information. It's not about it's not politics. It's literally health. Just know the information. And that changes so much.
Well, that's what, don't mind my unprofessional dogs. They don't follow any cues. They break all.
They want to join in the conversation.
They're very impassioned by this conversation.
They have things to say.
They do. Well, that's what I was talking about. There's an organization here in New Jersey called the Hyacinth that is a HIV foundation in New Jersey that provides medication and testing and prep medication. And they were saying that a lot of people won't get tested. And the lack of testing, or the lack of the fear around testing. But getting tested does not make you sick. Getting tested can get you well and treat you well. And it's so vital. I mean, I go for my testing. We should all go for testing because it's just self-care and care of others.
Yeah. And and you nailed it in the head, right on the head. It's not going to make you sick. If you have the virus, what's going to make you sick is not treating it, is not knowing that you have it. That's going to make you sick. What's going to actually make you well is your 1 pill a day that you can take in the morning with your vitamins, no side effects, and become undetectable and have a normal life. I'm living proof of that.
You are, and he's been honored. He's a very humble guy, but he's been honored from the city of New York to HIV/AIDS foundations everywhere for being outspoken and such an advocate of this. And then if you don't know his whole story, Google it. I mean, you end up HIV positive cancer survivor.
Yes.
And you're through COVID. I remember speaking to you in your house. You spent months worried and afraid, thinking maybe we'd never work again, we'd never get out of this pandemic, to keep yourself safe. When you are faced with all of these things, and then you come on and you smile and you're sweet and you're kind, and meanwhile, I'm this morning online at Dunkin' Donuts dreading my day. I'm gonna have to think of you. What is it? What do you do for your self-care to try to get you into a place where you know that what's happening to you is for a reason and it's going to be okay, or however you make it through?
There's a number of things. And I love having this conversation, because we can never publicly have conversations about our health and well-being. Can't have that enough. It should be everywhere, right? I love it. So for me personally, the first thing that's so vital is therapy. Once a week, that 1 hour a week that you give to yourself. Like, this other person, this other therapist has to sit there and like listen to you. Like, how great is that? Like, they can't go anywhere. They can't turn on their phone, right? They can't be on Instagram. Like, they have to like be there with you, right? So how wonderful is that to like have an hour to just be like, ooh, this week, this is what happened. This is what I'm feeling. And bam, ooh, it feels so good to leave that there, right? And to hear yourself say things out loud and figure things out and unravel things. It's beautiful. That's the first thing. And I'm a strong supporter of therapy. And the other things are more like personal to me, right? As you were saying, the gym, exercise for me, it's because HIV, I'm old enough to come from the generation where I lost a whole generation of friends and peers, and I call them my guardian angels, and they're gone, right? I lived that. And exercise for me, when I get to do it, is proof of living. And so it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's the treadmill, whether it's the elliptical, whether I'm at home doing something online, or whether, my trainer's kicking my tail and I'm bleeding eternally afterwards, all of the above. It's just proof of life for me. So that's a really wonderful thing. I meditate every morning. When I need to, I journal. And these are the things that keep me sort of even keel. But I think the most important thing is I don't candy coat anything, right? I don't judge it when I'm sad. I don't judge it when I'm sort of feeling depressed or heavy-hearted or heavy-minded. I don't beat myself up when I'm having an off day. I'm not feeling great. I'm not on point. That's not a time to beat yourself up. It's time to be so gentle with yourself Be so gentle with yourself. Just have the compassion, because I bet like 2 days, before that moment, you were great, right? You were feeling so good. The sun was shining. It was wonderful. It's not permanent, right? So like, be gentle and kind to yourself and just navigate through it. It's going to be over soon, and come back to yourself, right? Like, that's, I think, the most important thing, because we can all go down some pretty intense spirals when we're feeling heavy.
I'm going to bottle you up and sell you. My therapist used to say, feelings don't last forever. It's okay to feel them. They're not what's going to hurt us or kill us. So, in the long run, and listen, my therapist probably has a house on the Jersey Shore with my money, because I can't make it through a week without going.
Come on, it's so good.
It is. It's the best thing ever. It's like a best friend that doesn't give you really their opinion, or you don't have to listen back. It's great.
Oh yes.
Well, I see you on a different note. I see you doing concerts. I see you with our friend Mandy Gonzalez. I see you traveling and touring and singing. I see you last night with Seth Rudetsky, etc. We're going to see more music and more performing, and you have, I'm sure, tricks up your sleeve.
Absolutely, yes. There's Mandy and I still pick up the tour again next year, and we were on the road. I'm toying with the idea of my own solo show. I dipped my toe in the water last night with Seth, just to feel out, like, what does this feel like, without Mandy, when it's just on my own, and that's in the works. There's 2 new musicals that I'm working on, Prada being one of them, The Song of Bernadette is another, and there's lots coming. So yeah, I'll be here and around.
I'm ready to come see it all. Listen, follow him, listen to what he says, be an active conversation, and support HIV/AIDS charities and health foundations around the world, not just here, to help people who really need access to medication and resources. You can follow Javi right here on Instagram, and make sure you check him out and see him when he's in your neck of the woods, for sure. You're such a ray of sunshine. You are just joy, and I'm so grateful to have and talk to you. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Robert. It's so beautiful to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, does it get any better than that? If he can do it, you can do it. We can do it. So honored to know that man, and to be able to be around him and share his words with you all here today. Remember, we're raising money for Hyacinth. Hyacinth's the New Jersey's largest HIV/AIDS charity, and helping LGBT youth and people that are HIV positive and with testing and medication. So check it out today. Talk to your doctors about what choices and options are out there to keep you safe. Well, I was watching 2020, and I saw this next gentleman. What another beam of light, using his diagnosis and his platform and his lifestyle to teach health and to rid the stigma in the most masculine, athletic way, weightlifting. Raif Derrazi is the real deal. Take a peek at when he was here, and we got to chat. Okay, our next guest is somebody who I had found and had started listening to interviews and conversations that he had, and I was so inspired by his journey and by his dedication and his attitude. And I think you need to know, listen, I just came from the gym, because after reading his story, I was like, damn, I better get in and do this leg day, because I can't look at him I can't look at him and lie. So I went. Raif Derrazi is here, and I'm so excited to hear. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for that introduction.
I have the post-gym glow just for you.
Amazing. I'm proud.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I only go for the protein shake at the end. That's the only motivation.
Chocolate does it to me every time.
That's it. So can you tell you do a lot of things. You host shows, you speak, you do bodybuilding, you do a whole bunch of things. You're a media personality. How do you define yourself? What is your role, and what are you doing out there in this world?
Oh, wow. Let's see. To sum it up, I would say that I'm an HIV advocate by far. But then I also advocate for well-being, fitness, mental health, everything in general, as far as like living your best life healthfully and happily.
Absolutely. Well, this is why I wanted to do this show and particularly speak to you, is because when I'm born in 1983, and in the 80s and early 90s, the HIV crisis was at high alert. After school specials, we had meetings in our classroom. It was everywhere. It was Magic Johnson. It was the Ryan White. It was all of that time where people were very afraid. And as I teach, because I teach 5th grade in real life, my students don't think this is a big deal. They don't think it affects anyone. They don't talk about it. And I watched the special on television about how the funding for a lot of the HIV trials and all of the things that were going on for the medication has been diverted, and people don't feel the urgency anymore. And I needed my little platform to talk about and see real people who are out there fighting the fight against this that's still prevalent. Can you share with us some statistics that people may not know? I know, for one, just for me, off the top of my head, just to say, when I was watching the special, 1 out of every 2 queer person of color in Atlanta, Georgia, male is HIV positive, and the testing is not available. The stigma is still a thing. Wow. So can you tell us a little bit about your story? I'm sorry, I'll ramble on because
I mean, yeah, I would pull it out even further globally. People don't realize that HIV impacts females more than it does males. Greater than 50% of those living with HIV are female. And that's shocking that's like mind blowing to a lot of people.
Same. It's shocking. How did you come to be an activist for this cause? But what made you public and live it so openly and outwardly?
So when I was diagnosed with AIDS on my 27th birthday, 2012, the first place I went to look for information and for, role models, if you will, was YouTube, where a lot of people go to learn things. And I really wasn't seeing people that look like me and that I could relate to, that inspired me in any way, shape, or form. And I've always been really open with my life. I've been honest and transparent, and I always love performing too. So I feel like kind of creating videos on YouTube is a kind of a performance in a way. So I kind of fill that little void that I'm passionate about, but then also doing something that is meaningful and important. And it took me, to be honest, like a good 6 months before I really committed to doing it. And it did essentially mean letting go of my biological father's side of the family, because they had threatened to disown me if I talked about living with HIV on social media. And so I went through with it, and immediately the response was so immense, and it was just so obvious that there's such a dearth of information and visibility, and there's a vacuum, this need for a sense of community and people that like our age, to have someone to aspire to and to learn from. So that really just got me going.
Well, firstly, thank you for saying I'm your age, because we don't have to go into that.
I mean, you're younger than I am.
No way.
Yeah.
Well, you look like you're 24 years old.
I was born in 85.
But you look like a baby. What happened? Man, I better go back to the gym.
It's probably the Indonesian in me.
I got it. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Southern California, in Orange County.
Okay.
I'm from the Netherlands. I was born in Utrecht, Netherlands. Little college town. Came here when I was 5 and grew up in Southern California.
So you are a Southern California at heart.
Yeah.
So yeah, my partner is from Southern California, from Oakland, and then moved to Long Beach. And I'm like, you don't know what tough is like till you survive a Jersey winter. I'm
good. Tap me out.
So when you had to, when you were diagnosed on your birthday, and then you had to tell your family and friends, the weight of that stigma and that on you, what was that process like? I know a lot of people feel very alone. What have you learned after you shared your process that will help other people be able to share it?
I think fortunately for me, I had already, to answer your first questions about what it was like, I had already been through coming out as gay when it was not nearly as acceptable as it is now, and going through conversion therapy in my church, and losing my whole community of church goers that I considered my family, and dealing with depression and all of that. So I was kind of already prepared, and I had this inner strength and the confidence that when I had to deal with this, it was not nearly as terrible and difficult as coming out was for me. And I was also armed with the knowledge of knowing that I wasn't going to die in 2 to 3 years like I initially thought, and that I could live a long, healthy life. But I would say, to answer your second question, one of the most important things that I did for myself and that I would recommend everybody do, aside from listening to your doctor, doing the initial things that you have to do for yourself, getting on treatment, etc., is to, as soon as you can, establish a sense of community and a support system. So the first thing I did was I told all the people that are closest to me, and not that close to me, like my coworkers, my family, my friends, everybody. I just let everybody know it's out of the bag. Everybody knows. And unwittingly, I created a sense of support and a sense of community right out the bat. And that was invaluable to me. And I think a lot of people lack that, and it's really important.
I couldn't have said it better than that. I've had a lot of students, you know, I lived my life pretty out. And and as I've had a lot of students who've come to me and have faced the same kind of story you're telling me about, family members facing, you know, being a queer child in a family that doesn't accept them, and what are they supposed to do? And I think what you just said, if it's HIV related or if it's sexuality related or gender related, I always say you'll find your tribe, your people,
Exactly.
your group of people that will be there for you. So what decision was it to really, when was the decision to really focus on your health and someone calls you an Instagram hottie with a purpose? That's funny. That's funny. When was it to say, like, I have this diagnosis, it's not going to define and end my life and the way that I know it, and taking your own health and your own mind, body, and spirit in your own hands?
Oh, man. I mean, I'm trying to give you the Cliff Notes version. It was, I mean, realizing that I was literally on the brink of death with my AIDS diagnosis was very eye-opening. And there was a period after my diagnosis where I broke my ankle and I was bedridden for 6 months. So I had a lot of time to reflect and do introspection and kind of work on myself. And the number one thing that I realized about the way that I had been living my life is that I had been living with the mentality of being a victim. So I've been going through life, you know, as a child, I was a victim to abusive circumstances, and then in my teens, getting bullied, and then trying to come out with gay and conversion therapy and all of that. So I went into my adulthood, it became a crutch where I would use it to my advantage or use it to get what I want, etc., without knowing it. It was all happening unconsciously. And in the end, it was working against me. And so to realize my victim mindset, and then realizing if I'm going to move forward in life and actually live a fulfilled life and not end up in a rut like I am now, that has to change. And so I did a lot of work on shifting from being a victim to someone who has complete ownership of myself, complete accountability, who decides how I'm going to live my life and is accountable. And part of that journey is really reclaiming my body. So I just started going to the gym. I have no idea what I was doing. I was just going on the little machines and kind of like, okay, this thing moves like this. And I'm okay. So I did that for like a year. And then eventually I got a trainer, and then he started training me, and I was very passionate about it. And it became this outlet and this therapy for me where I could really release a lot of anxiety and stress. And it was exciting, and I loved it. And at some point, my trainer said, have you considered bodybuilding and competitive bodybuilding? And I said, oh, no, because I just thought of people who are on steroids. And he said, there are whole federations of bodybuilders that are all natural tested athletes. I was like, okay, that's interesting. So that's what got me down that road too.
That is fascinating. And that's a whole culture. The bodybuilding culture is a whole...
It's a lifestyle.
It's a life. I dated one for a moment.
Oh, so you dealt with the hangry phases, the meal prepping?
I sure did. But you know, it's fun. The day after the competition's fun.
Oh, yeah.
We could eat a hamburger.
A bottle of Pepto-Bismol.
That's right. I relate to the gym. I joked about the gym earlier, but I relate so much to the gym. That's why I have crazy gym hair. I related so much to the gym because it was an outlet for me when I was coming out, and I call them my straight days. I was divorced, I was married, I'd come out. The gym was my little solace because it's a place where I can just be quiet and listen to music and think about things in my own way. You're a deep person. You did all of that. Like, for you to come, that's pretty deep. Give yourself credit. That's pretty deep.
Thank you. I'm a major introvert, and a lot of that surprises a lot of people, but I'm very in my head a lot. So
and now look, now you've built this whole platform. I see that you have Black Queer Town Hall that you were doing. Yeah. Peppermint is friend to this show. Yay. Bob's too famous to do our show, but that's okay.
Naturally.
He's always busy. But can you tell us a little bit of where's the idea? How are you using content and comedy and to get important messages out?
I mean, I think it's just about having conversations. And so it's fun, like you and I are doing right now, and what we were able to do with Black Queer Town Hall, and giving a platform to artists and speakers and performers, and doing interviews myself. I'm been going to conferences for HIV now that things are opening up again. I just went to a little conference in San Francisco, and I'm part of a community advisory board, co-chair, and we meet with the scientists and researchers who are actively working on an HIV cure. So it was fascinating getting to sit down. I mean, 90% of what they said just went over my head. It's a whole different language that they speak, science speak, but I understood the basics of what they were doing, the core tenets of what they're trying to achieve. And so to be able to take I'm just like a sponge of taking all this information that I can get from everywhere in my life, and then regurgitate that in a way that's palatable and understandable to everyday people that's my goal. And so having conversations, talking to people, learning, which I love learning, and then getting to share that with people is just, I mean, it's fun. I love it. I'm so passionate about it. And it's hopefully going to be helpful to a lot of people.
You already are. Your body of work you're helping many people. So on that note, can you share, I was recently went to the doctor who talked to me about preventative HIV measures, and we had a conversation about PrEP, and there's stigma about PrEP. That's like a gay pill. And, and about, can you tell us a little bit, without being a doctor, obviously we don't want you to go see a doctor, but can you talk to us a little bit about the advancement in even your own routine to stay healthy, and about preventative measures that you may know, something that can share with somebody out there?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much at our disposal these days as far as dealing with HIV transmission. PrEP is something that people can take on a daily basis. There's a pill. I believe it might soon be available, if it's not already, in injectable form, where you would have an injection once every 1-2 months to start out, and then as they get better, 6 months, possibly a year. But there's something you can take every day. I believe it's greater than 90% efficacious against HIV transmission. So for someone who is HIV negative to really take control of their own sexual health, that's huge, aside from condoms and things like that. And then as someone who is undetectable myself, when you're undetectable for 6 months or longer, the CDC, the WHO, major countries around the world, it's scientifically proven now that when you're undetectable for 6 months or longer, that means undetectable means your viral load, the virus in your body, is suppressed because I'm on medication. It's doing its job. The HIV essentially is hibernating in my body like a little bear in a cave, and it's not doing anything. And so I can't give it to anybody sexually once you hit that 6 month mark and you're undetectable. So I can't even give it to anybody. So whether someone is on PrEP or not, I'm no longer a transmission risk to someone else.
It's amazing.
It's pretty amazing.
It's amazing. I mean, I remember when this started and people were afraid to touch somebody. And, now, we've learned so much. And now to think that you can be undetectable, and there are things that you can take that will, that keep everyone sexually healthy and fight or prevent this deadly disease.
I do want to add, because you mentioned, finances getting diverted and people not thinking that it's a thing anymore. Even now, like, we're seeing a lot of things get overturned and pulled back with the conservative Supreme Court, and lots of legislation being pushed, anti-trans legislation. I mean, it's everywhere. It's broad. We can't take our rights for granted. And even when it comes to the HIV epidemic, we can't take that for granted. I know that they're pushing right now to make it so that health insurance cannot cover the PrEP because it infringes on their religious liberties for some reason. I don't know what stage it's at, but they're shooting for that.
It's infuriating. And if you don't know, you should Google the senators and the Congress people that are out there that are trying to take away PrEP and make jobs and insurance companies not have to cover. This medication can be very expensive. It's something that should be covered by the insurance money that you pay. And there are people out there actively trying to, just like they do with women and minorities and people of color, they're coming for these that save lives.
Single-handedly stop the HIV epidemic by people who have HIV being undetectable, and then by those who aren't HIV positive taking PrEP. We could stop it without a cure, and they're trying to take that away.
Can you tell us about the process to be undetectable? You said that you were diagnosed with AIDS when you were 27. And then did you take one pill a day? Is it a cocktail of pills? What is it like now? And how long did it take for you to become undetectable?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I take one pill a day. It consists of like 3 different drugs. And that's it. I don't think about it outside of that. That's it. And then what was the other question?
How long did it take you when you found the right medication?
Yeah, as someone who had AIDS, I was able to get to undetectable within, I want to say 6 to 9 months. And my immune system was rebounding and I was pretty much good to go at that point. Pretty crazy. Yeah,
crazy.
It's a miracle.
A miracle. Can you tell us, and people out there, there's people out there that are so afraid to get tested. There's a fear. We've seen it depicted in movies and television shows. You know, the envelope is there. It's like an episode of Maury Povich. Like you're going to have this. Can you talk about, from your own experience or knowledge, about if you feel the need to get tested, why it's important? We avoid so many scary things.
Totally. And I've had this conversation with a lot of people in person or DMs. People are afraid to get tested because they're afraid of what the results might be. But this is the way I frame it. It's a way you can only win from knowing. If you don't get tested and let's say you do have HIV, it's only going to get worse and it's going to cause damage to your body. And if you're sexually active, you could be transmitting it without knowing. And also on top of that, just the stress and the anxiety of not knowing, all that you're putting on yourself, making yourself depressed about it, it could all be completely unnecessary if you don't have HIV. So it's really important that people just take their health in their own hands and make that step. As scary as it might be, you really can't lose, because if you are positive, then you'll be able to get on treatment right away and get it taken care of. There's no downside to getting tested and finding out. But I completely relate because, you know, before I found out I had HIV, it was my worst fear in life that I was going to get it. And I did avoid kind of dealing with it. I didn't want to mentally go there, but that's just a part of growing and coming into your own, is kind of valuing yourself and your self-esteem and knowing how to do things in your life that are going to support you and support your health, and not just related to HIV, but everything.
You can't say it better than that. My doctor, when he was talking about PrEP, was saying that, you know, he talked to the pharmaceutical rep and told the pharmaceutical rep, I don't know why more people, you know, like we were saying before, you know, intravenous drug users and people who are having unprotected sex. Like there are many people who, protected or not, no matter what gender or relationship, it's something that's just
sexual orientation.
Yes.
Oh, this is something. How is it that within a couple of years of the COVID pandemic, we have tests sent to our home for free, covered by health insurance, and we still can't get HIV tests easily sent to our home for free or covered by health insurance? It doesn't happen. But I think that's a huge barrier. If you could go online or on an app and swipe and click and say, oh, I want an HIV test, so many more people would be doing it. Why isn't that available?
Absolutely. Well, you know what? Well, I was thinking about while we were talking. There's, I don't mean to get. This is a deep conversation. It's a deep subject. So there's so many people who have lived before us who do not have the same luck that we have in the tools that are available. when I was in school, I was really sick with meningitis, and I used to do these hyperbaric oxygen treatments like Michael Jackson, but not. And there were a lot of HIV, there were a lot of AIDS patients that would do the dives with me. Oh, and I think to myself that none of them are here anymore. There's generations of people that have been wiped out by this terrible disease. And I think that it's our job to be responsible and to, in their legacy and in the future, to take these tools that have been put out there to protect ourselves and to keep teaching and educating one another. I think it's it's important. It's as important now as it has ever been. And it's people like you that are saving lives and changing the conversation about this disease.
And you as well, Robert.
No, thank you. Well, all right. So where can we watch you? What can we do? We're going to follow you on the Instagram.
Yeah, everywhere you can put in my name, basically. Type in my name and you'll find me there. Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok.
We want all the content. We want all the fun. We want all the gym tips. We definitely
I got them. They're coming.
We need the gym tips. Today at the gym, he said, "What'd you do today?" I said, "Legs." He said, "Did you do calves?" I said, "That's the only body part that ever gains muscle on me."
Oh, everything. Really? Oh man, trade me.
And that's what he said. He was like, "You know, there are people that die to have calves." Totally. I said, "Well, I would like abs, please. Where am I?"
Hey, listen, 90% of your aesthetic, your physique is made in the kitchen.
Okay.
It's all about nutrition.
Well, I'm going to have to talk to you off this show.
We'll do another one of these.
All right, done. I'm in. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your story. And I so appreciate it because I think it is really going to help a lot of people.
Thank you.
How about that? Makes me want to go to the gym and eat lettuce. We had the great Hyacinth is a great organization, and I had a great chance to speak to some of their spokespeople, and we put together this really great video here. Wait till you see what was happening in my own backyard, and I never even knew. And the money raised tonight is going to this amazing charity, and I hope you check them out. Send a donation today, and it will help somebody eat, pay a bill, get medication or testing. Here's a little bit about Hyacinth. All right, as you know, I'm a Jersey boy at heart, and I love and hold near and dear causes that help my little garden state. And we have an organization here that I'm so excited to learn about today called Hyacinth. Hyacinth has been around since 1985, the first people to fight the HIV/AIDS pandemic right here in New Jersey. And I have my buddy Quincy here, and we're going to talk about what you can do to help people that are fighting the fight with HIV/AIDS and to end the stigma and help with testing and all the things that are so important, especially on this and always this time of year as well. So Quincy, join me here. Quincy, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Robert.
Quincy, thank you for all the work and the dedication you have shown to this cause through these years and through this organization. Can you tell us a little bit about exactly what Hyacinth is doing in the Garden State?
Yeah, so Hyacinth, as you said, has been doing this since the beginning of the AIDS pandemic back in 1985. We have a three-pronged mission for our agency. One is to help people living with HIV and AIDS. The second is to do prevention with those who are not living with HIV to slow the spread of the epidemic. And the third mission is to be a part of the public debate. So we do public policy work, whether that's here at home in New Jersey, across the United States, as well as across the globe.
Amazing. So you have almost 100 employees, almost 175 volunteers that are working across the state. Can you, now when I was a kid, I was born in 1983. So I was born, I remember the after school specials. I remember the Magic Johnson after school special. I remember how big of a story HIV/AIDS prevention was and all of the fear and stigma that we all experienced in the 80s and early 90s. And nowadays, as an educator in the state of New Jersey, a lot of students don't even pay much attention or think or know the history or how serious or what is being done behind the scenes. So can you tell us a little bit about how you and us can help spread the awareness about what is going on with HIV/AIDS in 2022?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that what exists now is what we didn't have before, right? The internet is one of these wonderful tools in which people can get information access at their fingertips. A lot of the questions that we, didn't even know what to ask about through those after school specials are really, really at access for people right now. Hyacinth is available as you have the website that's here. We have a way to connect to Hyacinth on our Facebook as well as Instagram. So please follow us at Hyacinth. There are additional programs that we have, particularly in our prevention department, which gives people community awareness information to make the best informed decisions on their sexual health lives, or how to pass along that information to others. There is a plethora of resources in this age related to HIV awareness for the communities that we serve. I think in many cases, people may shy away from having these conversations. And so we, again, can encourage you and can teach you how to have those conversations with your friends, with your family, in your own backyard.
Well, my birthday is on Halloween, so we're airing this right before. I call this my birthday episode. And you know how people, Quincy, on Facebook and on social media say, like, it's my birthday, donate to a cause and whatever. Well, every week on this show, we have a virtual tip jar, and any dollars that are sent to the virtual tip jar on the bottom, we're going to send a group donation over to Hyacinth for all of the work that you all do. So send your dollars and pennies and quarters and 50s and hundreds and anything that you've got, send it on over, and we're going to send it over to Quincy. You all, this is amazing. I never heard of this, Quincy, in my life. You all have 8 offices around the state of New Jersey, and you are not only dealing with medical needs of people that are diagnosed with HIV. What are some of the things that people come to you? What does the community at large come to you, and what are the needs of the community? Is it testing? Is it access to medication? What are the things that you've been finding as of late?
It's varied. I think that particularly where we are with a community now, and this is more of a national issue, is that people are coming to us with more financial needs, right? More needs that are hitting those basic, as we saw, like Maslow's hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
So the physiological needs when it comes to people being able to have access to food. And those are what we're finding the most during this critical time. In addition to that, the services that reach the most people is our testing services. Testing seems to be a bridge to the community in a way that other services that are in-house just doesn't have the opportunity to reach. And it's wonderful because even if people do not get tested through our agency, our outreach team that's there connecting with them really leads them to having the conversations about what other resources are the most immediate need for them in the moment. So testing and outreach definitely are the heavy arm of the agency. Then comes education and awareness, whether that's through preventive messages or whether that's general health messages that we have. There are comorbidities with HIV that could go along with disease burden when it comes to diabetes or high blood pressure. The same communities, particularly Black and Brown individuals that are impacted about HIV disproportionately, are also disproportionately affected by those diseases. And so there's a general health awareness that we have when we meet people in the community setting.
Well, I was looking on the website, and I had the whole idea for this came from a documentary I watched on HBO Max recently and Hulu that was from 2020, and they were talking about how the numbers of people that are undiagnosed that have HIV. And I was looking on and it was shocking to me because I, as a part of the queer community and as a part in a state that you think is progressive, it's a Democratic-run state, that we are still so far behind sometimes with getting the information out and getting rid of the fear and stigma. It's not just a gay disease. It's not a disease that we should put shame and fear to touch and shake. I can't believe we're living in a time where we're worried about this, Quincy. 1 in 7 Americans are positive for HIV and don't know. And 40% of transmissions occur among people who are undiagnosed that don't know, because we are still not getting tested in this day and age.
Correct. And so that number has shortened. It's tightened a little bit.
Okay.
And so what I mean by that is when I first started entering the work, and so please don't date me.
Please.
I've been doing this work for 18 years, so please don't guess my age. And at that particular time when I started, we were at about 25% people living with HIV in the United States were unaware that they were living with HIV. We've moved that gap much shorter and shorter. So we're at the 7% now, which is an accomplishment to the testing efforts that we talked about just before. But we're still, you know, that conversation about 7% is a large number of people across the country, you know, an estimated over 100,000 individuals across the country that are living with HIV. Yes. And so in that instance, it's really important for us to, you know, think about how we support people, how we provide opportunities to dispel stigma related to HIV so people feel as though testing is an option for them. Many people are not comfortable with testing because the result is a lifelong impact for some people, right? And so we want to ensure that there's barriers that are removed from that experience so that we neutralize the conversation around HIV in general, that people feel comfortable accessing the care that they need, whether they are living with HIV or not.
Absolutely. Well, can you tell us a little bit, because I know there have been giant strides in the medication and the wealth and health of people diagnosed with HIV compared to the way that was when I was growing up. I will date myself. I won't ask you. So can you tell us a little bit about the strides that the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industry have made in keeping, I mean, what does it mean when we hear people say, I'm undetectable? I mean, that's something that was not a thing when I was growing up. So what is the advancements that are being made in that arena?
So biomedical advancements, which means, you know, the type of technology that we have to provide medications to individuals living with HIV has been tremendous in the past 2 decades, particularly. So let's talk about from 1995 forward and talk about what that looks like. So let me go a little bit back first. So back in the 1980s, when HIV first emerged as a critical health issue in the United States, we were seeing people being diagnosed and that they were dying within months, and some people were lucky to have that process prolonged. And in addition, there are many survivors from that time that have been able to see the advancements that we made within medical technology. The medication that we had at that time was not the best. There was really only one medication at that time. And then in the mid-1990s, they developed a combination of medications that people could use that impacted HIV at different points of the life cycle. What I mean by that is it stops HIV on whatever part of the cycle that it needs to survive to attack your body. So when something's attacking HIV, that stops its attack on our bodies. That result led to a decrease in mortality, which means the death of individuals that are living with HIV, and prolonged life and life expectancy. It also meant that we encourage people to start treatment as soon as possible so that HIV could stop that attack. We could stop that attack of HIV as soon as possible. So we've moved to a situation in which in 1995, access to those medications were far and few between. It cost a lot of money, to the fact that with a lot of advocacy work from Hyacinth and community partners across the globe to making sure that's affordable. In this day of age, many people living with HIV, most people living with HIV are able to afford their medications or have them for free in the United States. That is something that we continue to focus and push forward so that everyone, literally everyone living with HIV can have those medications for free. And we think about other chronic conditions in which people need medications to survive or maintain their health. We also are in that critical voice to push that debate. When it comes to an amazing treatment goal, which is called undetectable status, that's related to the viral load of HIV. And I'll just give a little brief outline of what that means. So viral load is being able to detect the amount of HIV that is in a milliliter of someone's blood. We detect HIV through the blood because it's a universal a particular type of bodily fluid that everybody who is living as a human being has, or at least you should if you're living. So there's other bodily fluids that can be detected, that HIV can be detected through. However, blood is the universal for all of us. So we use that as a standard. If people take a look at any lab result that they've gotten from their doctor, they've been able to see that there's like levels on their lab sheet. And the lab test will tell you that, you know, let's say a range of 5 to 15 is where it's a detectable. Anything below 5 finds itself undetectable. Anything below 15 is detectable, right? Because it's within that range and beyond that. So an undetectable viral load is when an HIV, the amount of HIV within someone's blood, is below what can be detected on a blood test. That's going to differ from one place to another. Usually the standard is going to be as sophisticated as 75 copies. It could be 50 copies. And I think the most sophisticated tests are around 25 or 10. So again, you know, people will need to look at their lab work and look at determining, you know, what does undetectable mean for them.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. And I know I've had conversations. Listen, nobody loves necessarily to go to the doctor. Nobody loves to get tested for anything and have needles or to take a pill every day to prevent the spread of HIV, et cetera, you know, in terms of PrEP medication or in terms of testing. But you could save your life and you could save the loved ones around yours lives for sure. What I found fascinating about, and you know what upset me, Quincy? Can I be honest with you?
Yes, go ahead.
I had a conversation, you know, this is why I'm going to get to my point in a minute. I go to the doctor. The doctor knows about my lifestyle, even though I had a conversation with him that if you are active in any kind of lifestyle, you probably could be on PrEP, and it's not a stigma about who is taking it. So he writes me a prescription. I'm a school teacher. And what ends up happening is the insurance company's like, we don't cover it. It's $2,000 a month. And then the other competitive brand is $3 a month. And these insurance companies, and that's why companies like yours, your organization, add an important part that I didn't even think about until I read about the organization, which is the legislative fight that you guys work with. You work with educating lawmakers and legislatures in New Jersey and nationally to be able to understand what people need, the access they need to medication, doctors, and laws that need to be passed. I'm sure besides just medical discrimination and the fight against all sorts of things, what do you as an organization do to fight from the legislative standpoint to make this fight more fair and healthy and safe?
Absolutely. So part of being the critical voice in the debate is the conversations that we have in Trenton, as well as in Washington, D.C., about the pricing of medication or access to these particular medications. We know that PrEP is life-saving. We know that ART, antiretroviral treatment, which is the HIV medication regimen, is life-saving medication for people. And we want to make sure that the access is improved. We know that when access is improved, there's also community acceptance of those things, right? Because the first thing is, you know, people ask, does this work for me? And then the second question is, how can I get it? And if it's not something that's seen as an affordable option for them, then the acceptance may be something that's out the window, right? So this is a critical conversation that we've been having for a number of years. I think even more so during the pandemic and kind of the lead up to the pandemic itself, the few years leading up to that, there has been a lot of conversations about the affordability of PrEP. I'm not going to say Hyacinth was the first in this conversation because we're not. We're a conspirator in the conversation that's been happening really at a community level and has moved up to organizations such as yourself to continue the fight for our community members. I think that one other thing that you brought up, Robert, is the aspect of universally accepting PrEP. A lot of our efforts, we were noticing just a few years ago that a lot of our PrEP clients across the state were gay men. And it's wonderful that this prevention strategy is available to a community that has been hardest impacted by HIV, at least generational speaking. Yet we do know that emerging infections also exist among heterosexual women, that they exist among trans women, particularly trans women of color. And so we re-looked at that process and thought about how can we be more intentional with our efforts to reach out to other communities that have not been serviced by PrEP.
That's so important. It's so amazing. The work that you are all doing there is absolutely, I can't express how important and vital what you're all doing is, and to share this message. And I'm so proud and honored to have you all be doing this work in this state. I hope it goes everywhere. Listen, he's not saying this. I'm going to say this. He probably will, but there are lawmakers right now in this country that are trying to take away your access to life-saving medication right now around this country. As elections come in November, as future elections come, you need to know about the people that are fighting for your rights and your safety to be able to live a safe, free, healthy life and existence. They're coming for your medication, PrEP medication, HIV/AIDS medication, and the right for insurance companies and companies to offer it. They're coming. So it's more important than ever to fight the fight and be knowledgeable about this. Can you tell us all, what do you do when we make a donation to your organization? I know a lot of the times people get very nervous about where their money is going. So when I donate my money to your organization, what can you tell us is what you all are doing with it?
This is a very important question. So a lot of our agency is grant funded, and if anyone out there knows much about grants, you know that someone that is giving you money has certain stipulations about how you use that money. And so most of our grant funding is for the operations that are specific to that grant. So when we talk about testing, then it's the supplies that go into all the testing mechanisms and the staff salaries. There are things that are additional needs to people in our community that we talked about before. So while we provide critical services related to public health, there are needs that our community has regarding housing assistance, that has regarding financial assistance when it comes to, I just need a rent paid for this particular month. I just need some food on the table because I paid that rent for the month and there's nothing left. The aspect of being able to provide transportation services through Uber or other places that are convenient for our community members. Hyacinth regularly does community dinners that we sponsor both during November as well as December and any other time of the year. You know, your money could go to being able to provide a food for someone that has not eaten for a few days and is coming to us for testing services, but really the critical need is getting food into their belly. There's many ways in which that money can be utilized. And also, you know, if you want to develop a program because you see a community need, you can specify that those funds go directly to that community need.
You all are doing God's work, or the universe's work for sure. I appreciate it. And I can't wait to learn more about you and be more about the organization and be more involved in what you all are doing. And I can't wait to party with you coming up in November. Everyone, you go to hyacinth.org. Make sure you get all the information. Donate. If you want to send it to us, we'll send it all together. We'll send it right there. We'll just throw it right over there. And thank you for all of the work you're doing for this community, for the state, and for all of us. Truly, it is. It's out of everyone that I get the chance to speak to, this was the utmost honor. So I appreciate it so much.
Thank you. I appreciate being here with you.
Thank you. How fantastic is that? How fantastic are you? Thank you for being here. Thank you for putting up with a different show. It's a little preachy. It's a little bit of a political statement. It's a little bit of love and humanity and life. If you were in the shoes of these people, and you were struggling and you had a diagnosis that changed your life and carried a lot of shame and stigma with a lot of judgment and misinformation, you'd want people to stand up and support you. So I hope you do the same today. Next week, we have a really special show. Liz Calloway is going to be here, Tony Award nominated superstar, and a whole bunch of other special guests this month. Crystalline Lloyd from 1776 is going to be here. We are also going to have Jane Monheit. We're also going to be on the red carpet of the collaboration with Paul Bettany and Jeremy Pope. We have a lot coming up for you on the Roundtable. You can join us every single Thursday with the Roundtable and the Roundtable Talks. I want to let you know, thank you. Thank you for sharing some love with us tonight. I send my love and support right back to you. We'll be back next week with a regularly scheduled program live. My name is Robert Bannon. If you want more information about me, go to robertbannon.com and make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Until next time, everybody, the best is always yet to come. It sure is. God bless you. Thank you so much for being here.